So dark. What's up, everybody? My name is Johnny. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to this video that you're watching right now. I've kind of been inspired a little bit by, I did the video where some of the YouTubers that have inspired me, some of the YouTube photographers, videographers have inspired me at times. And today is one of those times. I actually, um, I was watching Camera Conspiracies, one of his latest video that just popped up today. Something about a Franken camera or something. He was kind of going, somebody asked him a question about the perfect, what would be your perfect camera? So I was thinking, what would be my perfect camera and why? Now, I told some of my journey so far, but I really haven't gone into detail about the cameras that I've purchased and why. I did tell you I started out with actually a Canon T5i that I picked up at a local pawn shop, and I had to have it repaired. The SD card reader wasn't working, so I did have that repaired. But even getting that repaired, and as cheap as I got it at the pawn shop, was still less than what you could buy one used at the time. So I think I did okay. And of course, I bought that video camera or DSLR to get back into YouTube. I was going to use it to get back into YouTube. However, I kind of got bitten by the old photography bug when I said, yeah, what the hell? I've got a couple lenses. Let's go out and shoot. Let's see what happens. And I did my research, took a little bit of an online type course and, learned the settings and everything, and went out and started shooting, and I fell in love instantly. I've always really loved photography. And up until that point, it's kind of one of the things where the camera on my smartphone was one of the more important things. You have different decisions about why you purchase different cell phones or different smartphones. The camera was one of the most important things because I like to take shots from now here and there, just to take shots or whatever. Kind of sucked at it, but I still suck at photography, so I guess it's no big surprise there. But I learned as much as I could with that camera, and I started listening to people when I was online and kind of researching the DSLR world and all that. And everybody's saying, oh, you need full frame. You got to have full frame. Full frame's better. The low light, blah, blah, blah. So I ended up picking up a Canon 6D Mark II because at the time I just didn't want to spend the money. It's kind of one of the things where I've got the money. I just don't want to spend it. So I picked up this 6D Mark II and really liked it. I didn't love it, but I liked it. But I was letting people get in my head about the 6D Mark II and about the dynamic range. That was the big downside to the 6D Mark II, was dynamic range. That's what everybody complained about. So I got it in my head. This is not good enough. It's just not good enough. I got to have more. And at the time, mirrorless was starting to really take off. Mirrorless had kind of overcome some of the early issues and had started to build up a huge following. Sony, pretty much being led by Sony, more or less. And there was a lot of Sony cameras, Sony Alpha cameras I hadn't even heard of up until that point. But I mean, you had the A7, you had the A7R, A7S. I knew nothing about Sony at all. It was Canon or Nikon. That was the only two companies I was really worried about at the time. So anyway, and Nikons were kind of expensive. They were like a little bit more expensive. And again, like I said, I just did not want to spend the money. So I went ahead, got the 6D Mark II, used it a little bit, got me, I believe it was a Tamron 24 to 70 2.8. So it was my first 2.8 fixed aperture lens, zoom lens or whatever. It was regarded as one of the best third-party lenses out there, So I picked this thing up, did some shoots with it, and loved it. I absolutely loved some of the photos that I took. And I shot it for a while. I loved the way it felt in my hands. It was kind of big and bulky, and I kind of liked that, So the battery life is fantastic. DSLRs, the battery life is fantastic in DSLRs. So I really had a pretty decent time with this camera. But then the mirrorless bug started hitting me, and I started listening to all this. Oh, mirrorless is fixed. Mirrorless is better. Mirrorless is the future, blah, 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 mirrorless. So I started looking around. I'm like, you know what? I may as well make the jump. And I started looking around at who had the best prices, or I should say, who was in the price range that I wanted to pay. And really, the only thing that came to mind or that I could find was the Sony A7 III. The A7 III hadn't been out very long, and it was taking the world by storm. You guys remember? I mean, the A7 III was a phenomenon. It really was. It was just, it had so many features that much more expensive cameras had at a much lower price point. So it was just an amazing camera. So it was really a no-brainer. I bought it with the kit lens. I believe it was what the 28 to 70 kit lens, 3.5 to something, 5.6 or something, 6 or whatever. And I used that camera, you know, religiously almost. I mean, I was so happy with it. Battery life was fantastic on it. I didn't really do video, so I didn't really care about the video features. It was all about photography, and went out in the streets a lot. I ended up getting a couple more lenses. I had a Tamron 7300. I had the Sony 85 1.8, which is a fantastic lens for that price. It was amazing. I also adapted. I had an old Canon EF 51.8, which for 125 bucks, that's probably the best lens ever made. For 125 bucks, you couldn't go wrong with it, right? So I actually adapted it to the Sony and took it out at night. And again, I didn't know that much about photography at the time. I was still learning. And I took this thing out, and I was getting some pretty good night shots. I was amazed at how good the shots came out adapting that lens. Now, I never ended up getting the Sony 51.8. I don't know why. I just never did. But I got a couple more lenses for it. And I was, for the most part, I was really happy. I was out with that camera a lot. I took that camera out everywhere I went. Got some really good shots to the zoo and to downtown Amarillo. If you go to my portfolio at johntaylorphoto.com, you can see some of the images. I don't have them labeled per camera like what I was using. There's a lot of photos on there, still on there from Sony. The thing is, I love this camera. I love the A7 III. I learned how to use it where I was able to switch things in the menu, even though the menu compared to other menus sucked. Everybody knows the Sony menu sucked. But I learned how to use it. That's the thing. Once you learn how to use it, it doesn't suck anymore. You just figure it out. You can't really compare menu systems between brands because, yeah, it's not meant for you to jump from brand to brand to brand. You know, the camera companies aren't going to get together and say, hey, Nikon, we need you guys to do your menu like this so that if somebody wants to jump, you know, it'll be easier for them if they leave my brand to go to your brand. They'll be able to just slide right in, no problems whatsoever. No, they're going to make it harder. They don't want you to switch brands. That's the point. They don't want you to switch. But I learned the menu system. I could change things quickly on the fly, and it just worked. It wasn't the best ergonomics. I didn't really like the grip that much. I never tried the battery grip, so, you know, that's kind of on me. But the feel of this camera and what I was able to do with it as an amateur, as somebody just starting out, to me was amazing. It was kind of amazing to me what I was able to accomplish. And then I remembered my disdain for the Sony Corporation, and I let that kind of creep back in. And I'm not going to get into it here because this is my photography channel. But, you know, there was some issues I had with the corporation, and I thought, well, I don't want to deal with Sony anymore. So where could I go to get, you know, basically the same results? And of course, Nikon had the Z6, Z7, and they had just come out. They were either coming out with or just come out with the Z6 II, Z7 II. And I was thinking, you know what? I'd always wanted to go to Nikon. I always wanted to try Nikon. I actually wanted the D750 before I bought the 6D Mark II. But the prices at the time, the D750, very popular camera, was still way too high. I just didn't want to pay it. I could afford it. I just didn't want to pay it. So I figured, you know what? I'm going to bite the bullet. I traded in all of my Sony gear for a Z6 II and the kit lens. And I think I ended up with another lens. I think I ended up getting like an 85 1.8 along the S lens. So I got all of that shipped to me, you know, swapped it out. I purchased, I think the Z5 went on sale. It was on sale for like $1,000, $999, whatever it was. So I figured I picked that up and another lens here locally. For the most part, the ergonomics fantastic. Love the Nikon ergonomics. That thing fit on my hand like a glove. The issue I was having is I never got comfortable shooting it. It was comfortable in my hand, but I never was, as far as the menu systems and switching things over. Now, I love the tracking, the 3D type tracking deal. That was, in my mind, the best feature ever in a camera for me personally. But as far as everything else, I never was fully comfortable. And when I looked at my images in Lightroom, when I was editing these images, even though the colors were better, everything was better to me in my mind, in my eye, it just didn't look as good. I just wasn't as happy with the images for whatever reason. It's like they look too soft. You know, and I started trying to adjust the focus, how I was shooting, and I just didn't go out as much. Now, I did take it to Pikes Peak. We did go to Denver this year. My son had to fly out of Denver, so I went up there, spent some time walking around downtown, and we went up to Pikes Peak. We also went to the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo, and I took the Z6 II and the kit lens just to, you know, kind of as a travel thing. And I was, for the most part, happy with a lot of the images, but I kind of wasn't happy with a lot of the images. I don't know. I don't know what it is. And it's like the dynamic range. I was able to pull shadows out easier. There was a lot of things about it that were better. I love the raw files. The Nikon raw files are awesome. But I just, in here, and in here, I just wasn't comfortable. I really wasn't comfortable. And I really don't know why. You know, and it bugs me because I love that camera. I love the Z6 II, and I would love to go back to Nikon at some point in time, but I'm just, right now, I can't. You know, I want to, but I just can't, because I don't want to get that feeling again. I need something that I'm going to go out and shoot all the time. So I ended up selling off or trading most of my gear, my Nikon stuff, in on the X-T4, and a huge array of lenses. The 50 to 140 was one of them. 35 1.4, 50 f2, the battery grip for the X-T4, you know, extra batteries and straps, you know, Peak Design straps and all this other crap. I got a whole filters, the whole 9 yards. I got a bunch of crap. There's like a couple more lenses too, and I can't for the life of me think, what the hell have I got in my bag? I don't even remember what I have in my bag. And for the most part, I'm happy shooting with the X-T4, but I'm still not getting the look that I got with my Sony. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because I used that A7 III the most out of all the cameras. I used the A7 III more than all cameras combined that I've had. I've had a ridiculously different amount of cameras for such a new photographer. It's stupid. That gas is real. Gas is real, folks. By the way, if you don't know what gas is, it's gear acquisition syndrome. Although I'm a little gassy too. TMI. I've been thinking the last couple of days. If I go back to Sony, you know, I'm gonna feel bad in a sense, because I kind of propped up Fuji, as I love Fuji, and I love Fuji. I would most likely, if I'm happy with, and here's what I'm looking at, and I haven't done it yet. So don't worry. I am, you know, maybe it's because I'm waiting on that XH2, and I know that when it drops, I probably won't see it for 6 months, all because of the chip shortage. You got Sony and Canon that have already either canceled production or have put production off for certain models. You've got Nikon doing the same thing. They're like, oh, we sold too many. Now we don't know what we're going to do. We got to ramp up production. It's like all these different things going on. You guys got to remember, all this new technology coming out doesn't mean a damn thing if you can't get your hands on it. It means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. The Z9, okay, you bought a Z9. Fantastic. It's a fantastic camera. $5,500. I can't believe how cheap it is. Doesn't do you any good if you don't have it. Doesn't do any good. You can brag about it all day long. Hey, I bought a Z9. It's the best thing Nikon's ever put out. I won't see it for 8 months, but I paid for it and I feel good about it. You know, and nothing against you guys to do that. I had nothing against you guys. I know there's plenty of people out there that ordered this thing and they're just sitting on pins and needles. They can't wait to get it. And that's, hey, that's great. I'm happy for you. I'd love to have the Z9. It looks like a beautiful camera. It's perfect. You know, that's a Nikon camera I think I could live with. But, you know, I've been thinking, and what I really want is a high resolution camera for not only portraits, but also, you know, some landscape. I've done a little bit of landscape photography, but, you know, not a whole lot. But I use that Sony. I got used to it, the custom buttons and everything, the menu system, even though it sucks. And the new the new A7R3 that just dropped, the A model, they updated it's really not an upgrade. They upgraded the LCD. They upgraded the USB port to USB 3.2 instead of 3.0. And what else did they do? It was something else stupid. It was something minor. Has no bearing whatsoever on the actual, you know, operation of the camera. But I've been looking at the A7R3. It's like $800 off right now for the holidays. So I'm thinking what I'm looking at doing is Tamron has a nice selection of that Holy Trinity-esque glass, 2.8 glass. I did own the original 28-75 version 1. Great lens. Not as sharp as everybody was saying it was to me. To me, it wasn't. I mean, it was great. Don't get me wrong. But it wasn't like a G Master. You know, people are comparing it to the 24-70 G Master. Get out of here. It's not even close. Well, I mean, it's close, but it's not, you know, you can't, I don't know. To me, it wasn't all that great. But they have that 150 to 500. Very interested in that because I do want a very big zoom lens like that. And then also the 70 to 180, which I actually think I own that one too. I think I had that one too before I gave up my A7 III. So the 70 to 180, 150 to 500, and the 28 to 75 G2, and then the A7R III, which I would most likely definitely pick up an 85 1.8 for sure, and maybe a couple more primes, and I would be set for a while, you know, as far as that. Now, I'm not saying I'm giving up my Fuji. Before you get all excited, I didn't say I was giving up the Fuji, but maybe I end up doing that. What if I do? You know, what if I just get so comfortable shooting with this A7R III and I like the high resolution, and the XH2 comes out and it goes, oh man, it does this, 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 that. I'm like, yeah, but it's a crop sensor. It's still a crop sensor. You're still getting better dynamic range, and you're still getting better this and better that with full frame. I don't know. You know, if you're a new photographer and you're like me and you're just scratching your head, you don't know what the hell to do, you're going to go through those periods. And it sucks. It really does suck. But I figure if I'm going to go back, I may as well do it now. You know, I may as well do it now before the XH2 comes out. And maybe at that point in time, what I will do is just wait till the XH2 comes out after I have this A7R III. And again, I haven't bought it yet. Don't have it yet. But maybe get the XH2, compare it, because the XH2 is supposedly got a 40 megapixel stacked BSI sensor, and it may be as good. Maybe the images may be just as good. I don't know. We'll find out. But I think it's going to be months before we see it. I don't care if they announce it on January 1st, unless you get in right. You know, I don't know how many they're going to make right off the bat, if they even have them made. You're looking at probably 6 to 8 months, maybe longer, to actually get your hands on it. It's really a lottery. At this point, it's just a lottery. So to me personally, I kind of want something that's going to excite me again. Not to say the Fuji doesn't excite me. I'm just not getting the results that other people are getting. And like I said, maybe I suck as a photographer. That could be the issue. But I always did better with my Sony. My best pictures, I think, were taken with a Sony. That's a fact. My best photos to me, and the compliments that I've gotten from other people, have been off that Sony A7 III. It blows my mind. And it doesn't mean the Z6 II isn't a good camera. Doesn't mean Fuji's not a good camera at all. They're great cameras. Fantastic. I love that Z6 II. But you have to go with what makes you feel comfortable. I felt comfortable, unfortunately, with the Sony. It's just, it irritates me so much. It does irritate me so much to even say that. And like I said, I still haven't made the purchase. I still don't know if I'm even going to do it yet. Maybe I'm just blabbing. Maybe I'm just running my mouth and saying dumb stuff. But please forgive me. Sometimes I ramble. So that's, I mean, I guess that's the perfect camera for me, apparently, is a Sony. And I hate it. I hate it. You know, because the other cameras just, the Sony's pale in comparison until you get to the A1 or the A9 II. You know, those cameras, or, you know, even the A7R4. You know, and the only reason I'm not thinking about an A7R4 is I don't want 61 megapixels. 42 is like right where I want to be. 42 megapixels is just about perfect for me. I don't need 60, 70, 100. You know, I just don't need it. I was even thinking about, honestly, before I even looked at the Sonys again, I was honestly thinking about that GFX 50S2. I really was thinking about medium format, but it just, I'm not a good enough photographer to make that camera work in a portrait or wedding or any kind of scenario where people are moving, because the autofocus is so bad. Or I should say the auto for a medium format is probably good, but for what I'm used to shooting, I think I would ruin more images than I would get right. So, even though I'm sure the images are fantastic, medium format, I guarantee they're just awesome. I just have to stick to what I know, you know, and if you, as a photographer, when you get a camera in your hand and you get familiar with it and you love shooting it and you're out shooting more, stick with that camera or stick with that brand, you know, follow the upgrade path if you have to. But I'm telling you from experience, you have no idea how much money I've thrown away. You have no idea. It's ridiculous. And if I would have just kept the A7 III, picked up because here was my thought process when I had it. All right, I've got a bunch of lenses, got the A7 III. It's still in perfect condition. I didn't have any of the shutter issues. I was loving the camera. I was even thinking about buying the grip for it. And I was thinking, I need a second camera. I'd love to get into wedding photography or event photography, something where I might need a second body. And I was thinking, well, maybe the A7C, and then I could also use the A7C for using, you know, filming with, because it's got the flippy screen. And then I could also use it on the street, you know, street photography. It's a more low profile full frame camera. So that was my thought process. The next thing I was going to buy was an A7C, even with the kit lens, because I didn't own that lens. And, you know, then slowly build up. Once I got that, then maybe slowly build up into G Master lenses, or at least, you know, a few better Sony lenses, G lenses. And that would have been the most cost-effective way to do this. But do you think I did that? No, I did not. No, I just blew a bunch of money, traded in when I could have just sold it for more money, traded in. And see, that's the thing. You trade in your gear, you're going to take a hit. It's not that bad, but it's still a hit. So that's pretty much it, y'all. I should have stayed with Sony, you know, from the get-go, because I love shooting that camera. I did my best work with that camera, even though that's a year ago. I was doing better work with that Sony than I've done since with the Z6 II and the XT4. Even though I love the XT4, I love the profile, you know, I love the small lenses, less cost, you know, smaller cost and all that involved. But at least with the Sony system, you got so many third-party lens companies out there and so many third-party lenses that are almost as good as the Sony lenses, or as some of them are as good. I'm mad at myself because I switched and I didn't need to. So if anything, I blew a bunch of money and did something stupid so you don't have to. If you're happy with your camera, if you bought a Sony Alpha camera, A7 III, A7R3, whatever it was, an older A7, and you're happy, don't listen to people telling you have to have 10-bit or you have to have 14 frames a second or 20 frames a second, or, oh, that rolling shutter is going to kill you, or whatever. If you're creating and getting good work that you love and that other people seem to like, don't listen. Don't waste the money. You know, I'm telling you from experience, don't do it. Gas is bad. In a lot of different things, gas is bad. So that's my advice for the day. Thanks for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up, a like, and please subscribe if you would like more videos in the future. Again, I haven't done this yet. I haven't sprung for it yet. I may talk myself out of it. I may talk myself out of it. We'll find out. But anyway, I do appreciate all the people who've been watching the videos and liking, subscribing, all this stuff. Please do so, and go check out my portfolio at johntaylorphoto.com if you would like, and check out some of my photos. And I'm on Instagram, John E. Taylor Photo. And then also we have a Facebook. I have a Facebook page, John E. Taylor Photo. And then over on the Twitters, over on Twitter, Jet Photo, but it's FOTO. So it's JETFOTO is the old Twitter handle. So check us out over there. Also on Viewbug and something else. I don't know where I'm on. I'm everywhere. Okay, now I'm gonna go.